Welcome to reading and studying the Book of Mormon with me, Shara Ogilvie, a lifetime member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm here giving you a personally guided tour through this book that I love so much. It has so many teachings that are helpful in our lives and draw us closer to Jesus Christ. Now, we are on chapter 19 in Mosiah, the story of Abinadi, who was recently martyred, and then Alma, who's a priest who has established a new movement, a new religious movement. And in this chapter, we see the collapse of the government under King Noah, who was a very wicked king. Now, if you feel a little lost in the weeds, if you've just stumbled across this video as a individual video and you haven't been following along, there is a playlist, a Book of Mormon read along Book of Mormon playlist where you can get caught up on everything. But if you don't want to read all of it or listen to all of it and you want to get kind of an overview of the book, if you look in my video description, I do have a link where you can, you have to sign up for my newsletter, but I honestly am not sending really much of anything out right now, but you will get a copy of my Book of Mormon summary. So it's just a quick sentence for each chapter in the Book of Mormon. It's just a few pages, and if you wanted to kind of get an idea of what the whole Book of Mormon's about, you could get that summary and do a quick read through, get the bird's eye view, and then just listen to whichever chapters jump out and appeal to you on the playlist. That's one way to go about it. But of course, I invite you to read along and do the whole book. It's great. Not everyone's going to do that, so just do as much as you want. I'm just glad to have you here. Okay, so in chapter 19, we have, again, we've seen in previous chapters, Alma has this new movement of a church he's creating, but we move back over to the kingdom of King Noah and see what mayhem is ensuing in the kingdom as things start to fall apart for him. Again, he has just martyred Abinadi the prophet, and Abinadi prophesied that King Noah would meet a very dismal end if he went through with killing Abinadi. And we get to see things start to unravel for King Noah in this chapter. All right, let's get into the unraveling and see what mayhem ensues. In this chapter, Gideon, we'll meet him, seeks to slay King Noah. The Lamanites invade the land. King Noah suffers death by fire, as prophesied by Abinadi, and Limhi rules as a tributary monarch. All right, verse 1. It came to pass that after the army of the king returned, it came to pass that the army of the king returned, having searched in vain for the people of the Lord. And now behold, the forces of the king were small, having been reduced, and there began to be a division among the remainder of the people. Okay, if you missed the last chapter, you might need a little explanation that the army of the king had just gone out in search of Alma, who was a righteous man who had listened to the prophet Abinadi, who went out and started his own church, all focused on Christ and covenanting with Christ. And King Noah was super offended and pretended that it was a huge conspiracy against him, the fact that this church was created, and sent an army to annihilate them. But they didn't get a hold of them. They came back and said, we haven't found these churchgoers. And meanwhile, more things are happening. You'll see. All right. So the forces of the king were small, having been reduced, and there began to be a division among the people. So the king had not put very much emphasis on his military or protecting his land. He put a lot of emphasis on building really elaborate buildings, taxing the people, and partying. He was kind of a party animal, and it's going to bite him in the behind pretty soon here. Verse 3, the lesser part began to breathe out threatenings against the king, and there began to be a great contention among them. Okay, so we're having little mini civil rivalries within the kingdom, divided people. Oh, none of us know what that's like in these days. As in, I'm being sarcastic, people are divided all over the place in these days, so we understand completely how that goes. Verse 4, and now there was a man among them whose name was Gideon, and he being a strong man and an enemy of the king, therefore he drew his sword and swore in his wrath that he would slay the king. It's not surprising that the king isn't popular. He just killed a prophet. He's always out to kill anyone that disagrees with him, and he's just into being lazy and partying all the time. So I'm sure there's plenty of people that aren't in love. His approval ratings are probably not great. So Gideon would love to kill him. Yeah, okay. It came to pass that he fought with the king, Gideon. And when the king saw he was about to overpower him, he fled and ran and got upon the tower which was near the temple. And Gideon pursued after him and was about to get upon the tower to slay the king. And the king cast his eyes round about towards the land of Shemlon, and behold, the army of the Lamanites were within the borders of the land. So the Lamanites are the enemies to this little mini kingdom. And so here we have war from within and potential war from without, a very bad situation. Now the king cried out in the anguish of his soul, saying, Gideon, spare me, for the Lamanites are upon us, and they will destroy us. Yea, they will destroy my people. And now the king was not so much concerned about his people as he was about his own life. Nevertheless, Gideon spared his life. And the king commanded the people that they should flee before the Lamanites. And he himself did go before them, and they did flee into the wilderness with their women and their children. All right, so this group of King Noah and his followers, they all just ran away from the Lamanites. They didn't fight them. So Gideon spared King Noah only to see King Noah be a coward and run for the hills. It came to pass that the Lamanites did pursue them and did overtake them and began to slay them. And it came to pass the king commanded that all the men should leave their wives and children and flee before the Lamanites. So if you haven't been convinced yet that King Noah is the biggest squid, I don't know, slimy, disgusting creature that ever existed, we're convinced of that now, because as the armies are coming, he's encouraging his followers to leave the wives and children in the hands of the enemy and just abandon them. Like, can you imagine what a lame guy this is? That's so bad. Now, there were many that would not leave them, but rather would stay and perish with them, and the rest left their wives and children and fled. So thank you to those men who stayed with the women and children. Hello, a little integrity. Yes, I personally would rather stay and die with my family than abandon them. I can't imagine these people that just left their wives and children, but some of them did. They ran for the hills and left the wives and children to be murdered by this army. It came to pass that those who tarried with their wives and children caused that their fair daughters should stand forth and plead with the Lamanites, that they would not slay them. And it came to pass the Lamanites had compassion on them, for they were charmed with the beauty of their women. And from what I've heard, this is some kind of like ancient tradition that some, I don't know, previous indigenous peoples, or maybe it was Israelites, I don't remember. I read something somewhere, okay, that was a thing. Where you would send out your daughters to plead for mercy from an invading army, and sometimes that worked. So I don't even remember where I learned that. I just learned that it is a thing in history that has happened. So anyway, that happened here. Therefore the Lamanites did spare their lives, and took them captive, and carried them to the land of Nephi, and granted unto them that they might possess the land under the conditions that they would deliver up King Noah into the hands of the Lamanites, and deliver up their property, even a half of all they possess, a half of their gold, of their silver, and of their precious things, and thus they should pay tribute to the king of the Lamanites from year to year. So I don't remember exactly what the tax rate was under King Noah. It was like a third, maybe. It wasn't quite this high, though. It wasn't a half. So now their taxes just went up. Now it's a half to the Lamanites, but at least they're not dead. So they're happy about that. And now there was one of the sons of the king among them who was taken captive, who was named Limhi. So this was one of King Noah's sons. And if I understand right, King Noah had lots of kids because he had many wives and concubines. So Limhi would have been one of probably many individuals. And now Limhi was desirous that his father should not be destroyed. Nevertheless, Limhi was not ignorant of the iniquities of his father, he himself being a just man. So thank you, I'm glad Limhi is a good guy. It came to pass that Gideon sent men into the wilderness secretly to search for the king and those that were with him. And it came to pass that they met the king in the wilderness, all save the king and his priests. Oh, did I read that right? It came to pass they met the people in the wilderness, all save the king and the priests. Now they had sworn in their hearts that they would return to the land of Nephi, and if their wives and their children were slain, and also those who had tarried with them, that they would seek revenge and also perish with them. Okay, so those who had abandoned their wives and children, except for the king and his priests, the other guys who did, they are not happy about it. They don't like that Noah prevailed upon them to do it, and they're going to go back and either die with their people or get revenge on, and also they want revenge on, I think it was Noah. Who do they want revenge on? Also, those who turned, they would seek revenge or perish with them. Okay, seek revenge on those who would have killed their family or perish with their family if they're being killed. Basically, they're going to go back because they're loyal. And the king commanded them that they should not return. And they were angry with the king and, here we go, caused that he should suffer even unto death by fire. So Noah was so intent on killing anyone that opposed him, and he carried a heavy hand as he ruled those around him. And then in one of the last acts of his life, he is asking those people that follow him to abandon the wives and children, and they eventually wake up from the fever dream where they had actually gone along with his disgusting plan and realize he is the worst, like the worst than the worst, and they turn on him, and he suffers death by fire. So careful what pits you dig, because you might fall into it yourself, right? Right, King Noah? And they were about to take the priests also and put them to death, but they fled from before them. So King Noah got put to death, but the priests, who were his henchmen, just ran off into the woods. We have people running off all the time in this story. And it came to pass that they were about to return to the land of Nephi, and they met the men of Gideon, and the men of Gideon told them all that had happened to their wives and their children, and that the Lamanites had granted unto them that they might possess the land by paying a tribute to the Lamanites of 1/2 of all they possessed. And the people told the men of Gideon that they had slain the king, and his priests had fled from them farther into the wilderness. So as these people who had been in the wilderness came back to the individuals who are now in captive, they're exchanging stories. They're finding out, wait, our families didn't get killed. That's wonderful. Oh, and by the way, we killed the king because he's rotten. And the priests have, fled further into the forest. It came to pass that after they had ended the ceremony, they returned to the land of Nephi, rejoicing because their wives and their children were not slain. And they told Gideon what they had done to the king. And it came to pass that the king of the Lamanites made an oath unto them that his people should not slay them. And also Limhi, being the son of the king, having the kingdom conferred on him by the people, made an oath unto the king of the Lamanites, that his people should pay a tribute unto him, even 1/2 of all they possessed. So we're getting a tenuous peace here. The Lamanites are willing to not kill the people, but they also want half of what they earn or grow in taxes. That's a very high tax rate, and that's going to eventually cause a lot of trouble because people don't live very well under that level of taxation for long, especially when they're getting no benefit from it. It came to pass that Limhi began to establish the kingdom and to establish peace among his people. And the king of the Lamanites set guards round about the land, that he might keep the people of Limhi in the land, that they might not depart into the wilderness. And he did support his guards out of the tribute which he did receive from the Nephites. So it's this snaking and eating its own tail. It's this machine that feeds itself. He's getting taxes from the people of Limhi, and with those taxes, paying guards to continue to require the people to pay taxes. And now King Limhi did have continual peace in his kingdom for the space of 2 years, that the Lamanites did not molest them or seek to destroy them. All right, so in a chapter like this, and by the way, there's lots more chapters like this in the future that are very war-oriented. I think that, it's not necessarily talking specifically about Jesus Christ. So where is Jesus Christ in this? Well, what I think of is there's correct principles. What goes around comes around. You need to lead a good, clean life if you want God's power to help you. There's very earthy themes in here: pride and power and compulsion, freedom, taxation, things like that. How do they affect the people? These are things that we have to struggle with all the time on earth as we strive to live in peace among each other. And ultimately, our goal in being Christian is to be peaceable, to have a Christian walk with the other children of men, and to see what disrupts peace and what promotes peace. This is again a very earthy chapter where we're dealing with earthy themes of broken people making broken choices. But there's always things that we can learn about what goes wrong when people depart from following Christ and what goes right when they are following Christ. And also, I would say, just some good knowledge of how people work, good psychology, good other aspects of knowledge about how the world works. And so I love it. I absolutely love the war chapters, and there's way more war chapters later. I used to wonder why war chapters were in the Book of Mormon, but I don't really wonder anymore, because I find that war chapters are often very symbolic as well for the spiritual war that we are waging in our lives. So scripture is true on so many different levels. I love it. And one thing that if you stick with me and get through all this Book of Mormon, you'll see there are many different kinds of chapters and themes within this book. If it's just great preaching, or if it's war chapters, or all kinds of different things. So, all right, I can't wait to see you in the next chapter. See you next time.